start this morning. Fire drill this morning. And roadworks on High Street. Okay, this is day 2 of hearing string 3 dealing with rezoning matters in all 3 districts. Yesterday we heard from the officers on all rezoning matters, and we heard from 9 submitters also, and today we're hearing from another 9 submitters. My name's David McMahon, for those who weren't in the hearing yesterday, and I'm joined by a variety of commissioners. I'll quickly introduce them. Councillor Plummer, Gibson, Mailman, Bowie, Robin Chair,
Jerry Campbell.
Jerry Campbell. We've only known him for about 3 years.
He hasn't had enough coffee this morning.
Okay, no coffee. Councillor Dowler, Brianna Sims, and that case. Together, we're all appointed as independent commissioners, although some of us are councillors, and there's 2 iwi representatives from Rangatani and Kaununu. First submitter up today is Stephen and Judy Brown. Would you like to come up to the table, Stephen and Judy? Welcome. You're very welcome to remain seated unless you prefer to stand.
To stand.
That's absolutely right. I should apologise for being very intimidating, but it's purely that not all of the hearings have the full panel present, but the rezoning ones of such critical importance that we've decided to have the full panel. So I can assure you we don't bite. So take your time in the allocated time and what you would like us to.
Thank you. My name is Judy Brown, and this is my husband, Stephen Brown, and we own the property at 278 Namatara Road in Masterton. Our submission 261 is asking to rezone the properties between Westbush Road and Boundary Road, bordered by Donalds Road and Namatara Road, to the north and south, respectively, to mixed zone and not rural, as in shown in the proposed district plan. We contend that this would better reflect the current use of the land and allow for better utilisation of the land in the future. Our view is that one of the purposes of the proposed district plan is not only to plan for future use, but to recognise current land use and to rezone land where appropriate to reflect this. Our submission has been supported by the 6 landowners in the submission area. Paragraph 135 of the S42A report states that the predominant amenity of the area is rural residential in nature. We do not agree with this statement. Our view is that parts of the properties are somewhat rural in nature, but we would argue that the predominant character of these properties is no longer rural due to the fragmented small lot size and resultant condensed residential use and existing established mixed commercial use. The existing environment is therefore not reflective of a typical rural area, as the rural amenity has already been compromised, and we'd welcome any of you, if you would like to come and look at the properties, to see this for yourself. The land may be zoned rural, but it hasn't been and won't be used for mainly rural purposes. From a property owner's perspective, this zoning can be viewed as idealistic, as it is becoming harder, particularly financially, to achieve rural use. Due to the smaller fragmented blocks, it's a challenge to find anyone interested in running stock or even cutting it for hay. Located close to main roads, which can service mixed-use development, it would not negatively affect the character or the amenity of the existing environment to change the zoning to multi-use zone, as it reflects the activities that already exist. Paragraph 137, we acknowledge that the submission lots do not have town sewerage connections, although we note that they are nearby. On the water services map for this area, there are already Toby points along our submission side of Namatara Road. We fully anticipate any future development undertaken may need to fund these reticulated services, and that landowner contributions will be needed. The council's roading manager has written in the S42A report that a full access network plan would be needed to be provided upfront, as this would require major changes such as a new roundabout. We have contacted him and discussed this further. He stated that he didn't actually consider the submission separately. He couldn't identify the major changes or even where the supposed roundabout would have to be, but stated that roundabouts were generally used to manage an increase in traffic flow. At present, there are excellent existing sightlines along Namatara Road, and the legal road corridor is greater than 10 metres wide, allowing for medium strips if was needed, as is already working very well opposite Mitre 10 Mega. It is standard process with any development to require things such as services and any necessary roading upgrades as part of the resource consent process, with the finer details worked through as part of that process. We do not see any reason why this situation would be any different. Just because a property is a particular zoning does not mean that it is feasible or likely that it would be used in a way that the zoning encourages, and services and roading upgrades fall into the feasibility category, but at least it provides the opportunity to the landowner. Initially, after the consultation process, the draft combined district plan was produced with our submission area zoned multi-use zone. Since then, the government released their statement for highly productive land, of which our land is graded land use capability class 3. The proposed combined district plan was then released with our submission area rezoned to rural, as our land is identified as the highly productive land. However, in the National Policy Statement on Highly Productive Land, point 10 states that there is discretion to exclude land that is land use capability class 1, 2 and 3, where it's fragmented and separated from any large and geographically cohesive area of land use capability class 1, 2 and 3 land, as with the land in our submission. Also, on the 27th of March this year, the Minister for Resource Management Act, Chris Bishop, announced further details of the planned second phase of the reform. Point C, amendments to the highly productive land to remove land use capability class 3 from the definition of highly productive land. Point 34 stated that further details will be provided within 2 months by the 27th of May this year and implemented by the end of the year. Given this indication from central government, we would hope that the committee wouldn't make any decision on the zoning related to our submission area before this date. Removing the highly productive land class from our area would leave the land very much multi-use, with some of the existing businesses looking to expand, but unable to if zoned rural. Historically, bypass roads have contained multi-use properties, such as is already in this area. We would welcome any questions and happy to show you around our property or in fact the submission area. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Evan, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Not at this stage. I'll see what the question is.
We'll go to questions in a moment. I can assure you that we will want to take a property visit. We've heard from number of submitters in this part of the district, so the panel will be availing themselves of visits to all requested property rezonings.
I would like to point out that the lovely photo that was taken of supposedly the rural area was taken from the southern end of Namatara Road through the only paddock we have into the surrounding area further towards the Tararus and nowhere near down the submission area. Very nicely, not photoshopped. It is a picture, but it's not what is around that area.
We'll form our own judgment
Yeah.
of the character.
Thank you.
Site visit. Secondly, in terms of the HPL, you're probably the fifth or sixth person to mention Chris Bishop's speech announcing Cabinet's decision about land use category 3 in relation to the MPF HPL. And the first person to mention the timeframe, though, in terms of further details by the end of this month and an implementation by the end of the year. So thank you for that. That's useful. As far as your request for the panel to delay a decision until that time, That's something we will not be able to do because the statute requires us to issue our decisions within 2 years of the plan being notified. And in fact, we have a timeframe to issue all our decisions in one bundle prior to the elections. So we'll make a decision based on what the statute is at the time. And that's because we have no discretion to do anything other than that.
Didn't realise that.
And that's all from me at this point. I'll just check. Colleagues.
Is there a chance that we could get a copy of that?
I was just about to ask that.
We brought along sort of 5 copies. We didn't realise how many would be here.
It's useful to hand those out beforehand because it allows the panel to focus on what you're saying rather than hurriedly making notes.
Yeah.
So it's for future reference.
Yeah.
And if you could actually email an electronic copy of that to Ruth, and we'll upload that onto the web. So that it's part of the official record.
No problem.
Thanks. Can you just point out on the map up here, properties?
Our own particular property is this one here.
Gotcha.
But originally, when I went in, or Jude and I went in to see the town planner at the time, we'd asked for our property to be multi-use. And I said, you know, if it was me, I'd do a 50-metre strip up here of Nawatawa Road and use that as multi-use, and then left it up to them, and they came back with it obviously in there in a similar sort of format.
Yes.
But it's, yeah, it's a strip through here, and I think that's what it showed in the original.
Yes. Can you show the extent of where all 9 properties was are represented?
Got that plan with that on it? It's got it on the original.
Did you watch the original?
The church is in the corner, isn't it?
The church is in the corner.
Who owns that land?
Ratana family,
Oh, so
Yeah, privately owned.
it's privately owned. It's just a tiny.
they haven't asked for this rezoning, have they?
Not that we,
Is the property you're talking about, Jude, is that affordable sheds?
it's affordable, it's ours.
So,
Yeah.
It's on our property there.
so this first strip, those first little blocks that you can see, they've all got industry, commercial properties on them.
Stephen, why don't you just take, so we've got the church on the corner, we've got your property as we go north,
Yeah,
the next property,
that's Dave Nathan.
Nathan.
Yeah, and I'm not sure from.
So what's that to do with this property?
Nothing.
He hasn't done anything at this stage because he's been waiting to see what happens.
Yeah.
So at the moment, he had a house on it, which unfortunately got burnt down. So the only thing he's allowed to do is put a house up in exactly the same place, which leaves him the long strip, and he has nothing to do with it.
He was wanting to put one on for his daughter as well. Obviously can't do that.
He's obviously one of the people that supported it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then there's this, I can't remember which way it goes.
We just slow down. One at a time. So we've got the church, we've got your property, we've got Mr. Nathan, and then we've got what's the next property?
That one there, is that the one that does the
Make-
cabins?
Could be the cabins.
I think that's the
Homemade.
mason.
Stonemason.
Mason.
The cabins.
In the
The other
cabins.
side.
Would be Nicholson and Stonemason.
And is he in support of the zoning?
Yes. we had to-
One of the 6 landowners that you
Yeah.
to? Yes.
Does he own the land or is he just leasing the land? I think he owns the business, but. He owns the business, it is good point.
Yeah, he was living there, but he's shifted, but he still runs the business. Yeah.
See, just tracking north again, what's the next property? This one, yes.
No, I don't know the owners per se.
There's a granite guy, and then the next one north from that is affordable cabin, not affordable cabins, they make tiny home cabins.
Yes.
And are those 2 out of the 6 landowners that support? Yes. Yes. Okay, that's great.
And then there's Tim Hart,
Yes,
who's,
we heard from Mr. Hardy
Yes,
today.
yeah,
It's right at the top, yeah.
What's the average size of those properties, those?
we're 4.8
Yeah.
acres. And
4.8 acres or hectares?
acres.
Acres, yeah. Okay.
They were originally the balloted ones that
Rural
were
special.
rural special when the guys came back from the Second World War and they were balloted off. So some of them, even in that boundary area, go down to, I think, 1.7 acres.
Yes.
They're not big properties.
So in the proposed one of these blocks we don't know why, but it was left out. So it may have been that because it was category 2, or that it didn't have access onto Ngawatoa Road. I'm not sure why, but it was missed out. It was one of the ones that went through. Although they show it separated, they actually own a couple of the property.
Sure. Thanks, Steve.
Yeah.
Okay, just on my left, any further questions?
No, pretty well got a good idea now.
And anything on that?
Right, yeah, understand it.
Thank you for your presentation. We won't need to contact you again regarding the site visit. We'll make our own way here in the next few weeks. Again.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
It's Paul Bergen. Paul.
The whole active Paul. Starting presented to me.
Well, this is your second presentation, isn't it?
It is,
Yes. I mean, you entered the hearing string 2, I think.
yes.
Yes. And it's not long after the presentation from Simon Byrne, I think.
That's right. Yeah. I think he might have been the day before me or the
Yes.
morning before me or something of that nature.
Well, do you have any additional written information for the panel, or are you going to speak to something on your phone?
No, I don't have. Alice Falloon suggested that I get a couple of reports that I could show you guys that might support my case.
Yes.
And I thought long and hard about it, and decided not to go against them. Really, I'd like to put forward why I didn't have a so-called professional reports done.
Just before you do, let's just refresh the situation. The property's proposed zoning is general rural, and you're seeking a future urban zoning.
Future urban.
Yes. Okay, and it's 79A up Plain Road.
Yes.
Thank you. We just bring that up on the screen, please.
Okay. So one of these reports that Alice suggested I got was a land use report. And I decided that was perhaps a bit of a moot point in that general maps you can see, just find online. My land would be LUC, LU 2 or 3. But obviously farming is an economic endeavour. I think a few of you guys obviously farmers. And my property has a QV of 1.7 million. And for your money, you get 3 usable hectares of land. And let's assume that you're going to grow grapes. Let's go the highest value, which I think your economic report said at 300,000 a hectare was the highest economic value that anybody could spend on a paddock and make money. Well, if you buy my place, you end up with 3 usable hectares at nearly 600,000 a hectare. Or if you bulbed the house, you'd end up with 4 hectares at 425. So it's clearly uneconomic at any price point, regardless of what you put on it. So the land is actually not relevant. Secondly, just to make sure.
While you're checking, Alice, can you just remind me what paragraphs in your report yes 42 acres are dealt with? Thank you. Sorry for interrupting.
That's okay. And anecdotally, I've actually tried to grow olives on the ground, which is deemed one of these high value activities, and failed miserably. For anybody to succeed, I think they'd have to do really extensive drainage work and really extensive irrigation work for the summer, both at, I think, significant cost. The second report that Alice suggested I might get was one on from Three Waters, or whatever the right word for Three Waters is these days. Now, in my specific property, as you can see there, it sits right in the corner of Upper Plain and Chamberlain Road. And I have access onto both Upper Plain and Chamberlain. And your council maps show that there is a mains drainage or sewage, if that's the correct word, obviously runs past on Upper Plain and runs to the edge of my property, the end of my property, if you will, on Chamberlain, and the water services are the same. So in terms of external connections, everything's in place. Internally, whoever develops the land would have to submit to you guys and make a plan of how they get the deal with sewage and water as part of their submission. So I don't think that's necessarily my port of call.
You're saying that would be dealt with through the typical subdivision.
Yeah, they're going to say, we want to build 50 houses and this is how we'd like to do it. And the experts will say yes, no, or you need to think again.
The whole land size, including the house, is 4 hectares.
Yes, I think it's 4.1, but it's 4 hectares.
Yeah.
So the access is just the drive off Upper Plain Road there?
There's a drive off Upper Plain Road. There's a separate drive further up Upper Plain that looks like a sliver from where you see it.
Yeah.
And there's a third driveway out onto Chamberlain Road.
Good.
But,
Yeah. Down a bit.
Yeah, the one where you've got 2 lines closed, that's the one.
Yeah. What's the width of that?
It's 6 metres.
So would that, with 4 hectares, that would give you, what did we say yesterday? I think there was 13 or 14 sections for that sort of size, wasn't it?
Counted 13, isn't it?
Yeah, and that was for a smaller block. So would that meet your roading requirement?
Well, I think that if anybody developed it, they'd break it into 2 projects. They'd probably run the bit with the smaller axis to make 13 or 14 sections in that back paddock, that sort of to the left of it. And then the road axis, which I've got off of Upper Plain, which is 15 metres.
So you've got a decent width there.
Yeah, you'd run in from Upper Plain for the bigger part of the development, if that's the right phrase.
Can you show me the road access from Upper Plain? Wasn't looking last time. Just had to go up, sorry.
Yeah, you see a bit that looks like it's got a.
It's quite wide there, isn't it?
Thank you.
Interesting enough, the access from Chamberlain Road is the second one's not shown on that teal outline, is it?
Yeah, it is.
yeah.
It is there. It wasn't shown on the map before. It was shown as a separate section, I think, you find.
You've got 2 access points to Upper Plain Road.
Yeah.
Is that-
And one change.
The smaller axis is only 4 metres,
Okay.
so
Yeah.
so it's basically irrelevant.
Yes.
So,
Walkway.
okay. So just confirm that you've got 1 legal access from Chamberlain Road.
Yeah, 1 legal access from Chamberlain and 2 from Upper Plain.
Thank you.
Obviously, either side of that access, they're different ownership.
On Chamberlain Road,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. No, on,
Go to Upper Plain.
Upper Plain, yes.
either side of that wide access, they're not owned by you, those properties.
No, they're because I believe that the town line stops at the end of that driveway, because they used to be separately rated. You used to do a little thing for the drive.
Yep.
And then for the house.
Okay, so 6.1 on to Chamberlain. Thanks, Solitaire.
Can you just focus on the large?
Yeah.
That large access has always been part of your property? You didn't buy it and then?
No, it's always been part of the property. The property used to come in, you used to come in off Upper Plain Road where that small axis was, although it was wider. And that little bit of land was just basically used to run a few sheep on.
Interesting shape that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Solitaire, could you bring up the operative district plan zone, please?
All those other houses, they're all serviced by water and sewage.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
The pipes run right past that main entrance.
It does.
Yes, it does.
And on Chamberlain Road.
And on Chamberlain, yeah. And the axis and the pipe and Upper Plain, I think, is really deep to allow for runoff in terms of your heights.
doesn't show that entrance way as part of the block. It shows it separately, doesn't it?
No, it
No, it
shows
does.
a
It's
different
just-
zone.
Oh, I see.
Different zoning colour.
um, 79 Upper Plain Road under the operative plan is zone. And the properties fronting Upper Plain Road and Chamberlain Road is zoned residential in the operative. So proposed plan is largely mirroring that approach. That you understand?
Yes,
Yes, and you're requesting that the large block be extended the residential zone.
yeah, basically incorporated into the area, so to speak.
Any further, oh, sorry, we might
I've
not.
got one more thing to, you know. The other thing that really concerned me, with regard to my property, but B, with the regard to your making 10 and 30-year decisions, I believe is your kind of raison d'etre.
10 to 20.
Okay,
I mean, the current requirements require council to review their plan every 10 years.
yeah,
Generally, generally it takes, 2 to 3 years to
go through the process, yeah.
and then start again over that 10-year period takes another 10 years. So by the time you've got a completely new plan, 15 years to 20 years have elapsed. Having said that, the current local RMA reform process may change all of
Yeah,
that
that's gonna,
in the future, but generally you can 10 to 20 years is a reasonable planning period for a district plan at this stage.
so the final point I made, and I can only really comment about my area because I know it particularly well. There was an area of 49, I think 49.3 that was on your first idea of rezoning to future, which would incorporate mine and the blocks all around me. And your people that did the report on what density that might involve suggested that taking it out of the plan remove 1,344 houses from your future.
Urban zone.
FUZ.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, given your minimum section size is 400 metres, and given that anecdotally you lose about 30% of the land to roading, common parts, if you use those numbers, you come up with 940 houses. So in other words, numbers wrong by 45%. Now, that may or may not be relevant with regard to one small area of town, but if all the estimates that you're working from, you're trying to make decisions on, are out by 30 to 40%, you're neither going to meet the 10-year window nor the far one. And they're not granular enough in as much as if you looked at my property, if you brought up the aerial photo, what they're saying is you could get 400-metre sections without roading onto my section with no work. Well, you'd have to bowl a house, cut down 50 trees, pole sheds. It would be an extensive, and you'd get nowhere near the number that the report put forward. Nowhere near.
That's your third and principal point, isn't it?
Yeah.
So Paul, can I just go back to your submission in it? You've asked for future urban or residential.
Yeah.
What's your preference?
To be honest, it would be easier for me if it went straight to general.
Residential.
Yeah.
Any further questions of Mr. Burton?
Right. So the purple block is a small commercial area. It's got a dairy and bottle store and stuff there.
Yeah, there's a hairdressers and a dairy and a off license.
Yeah.
And the retirement village is the
It's literally across the road. It's straight out from my upper plane access.
Yeah.
Is where it is, and their access is just slightly further up plane. You can see.
yeah. Thank you for that.
So you wouldn't even know your property was there as you drive up.
Pardon me?
You wouldn't even know your property. I've driven up there my whole life. I wouldn't know.
No, absolutely.
Wouldn't see your property. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, when I bought the place, we missed it several times just driving past because you assume it's going to be on the road, actually on the road. But
Couple of final questions for me, Mr. Bergen, if you don't mind. Just remind me, when did you purchase the property?
1999.
And at that stage, what was the land use activity?
The people before us had tried to plant olives.
Yes.
And you'll see the small line of trees in the sort of middle paddock, if you will.
Yeah.
That's what's left of a very failed olive operation.
You know how long they had their property for before you purchased it?
They were only there about a year, less than 2 years.
Yes.
I think about a year.
Yes. And do you have any knowledge on what was there prior to?
It was owned by the Garworth family.
Sorry,
The Garworth family, you know, the lawyers in town.
yes,
And I think it was in their hands for 90 years.
yes.
I believe they owned all the sort of 10-acre blocks around me.
Yes. And were they just grazing it, or what were they doing?
I think they were leasing it out for grazing. I don't think they did anything with it.
And just remind me, you probably have already, what are you doing with it currently, apart from living on it?
Nothing.
Nothing.
An awful lot of lawn mowing.
Yes, I was just going to suggest that. Okay. The recommendation that's in front of us from Ms. Falloon is to reject the zoning at this point. She's said that she was prepared to reevaluate the matter if further information was provided. We've spoken to the two reports that she suggested, explained why you haven't done them. What will happen now is Ms. Falloon, along with, will assess this further information, along with all of the other information that's coming on other zoning matters, and she'll report back to us within 15 working days
Okay.
of this. Receive that information, and then we'll deliberate on your and other zoning requests. As I indicated earlier, to the previous submitter, we have a requirement to issue our decisions in September.
Okay.
So all of the decisions on the plan will be issued at the same time, so that it's an integrated approach to decision making.
Okay. And like the previous submitter, you know, if you guys just want to turn up and
Yeah.
have a nose round,
It definitely will avail us.
lawn mowers, because I can do with the help.
Mr. Bergen, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey. We have Upper Holdings next. Grayburn and Mr. Porter.
Morning.
Morning.
John Porter.
Welcome.
Thank you, sir. I can't believe it's 9 months since I was here last.
Weekend.
Yes.
What things can happen in 9 months, I found.
It's happening weekend like
Terrible. It's not,
it's to hear it.
too sunny.
Yeah.
What fun though, no ducks.
This is a lot of fun.
Morning, Mr. Adrian.
Thanks, sir.
We appreciate circulated evidence on behalf of the submitter and also the next submitter that you're representing, which is your own trust. Panel's read those matters that get to us that blood, no matters in real contention anymore, but I've oversimplified that. Please tell me.
You don't believe so, sir. Thank you. I guess the primary reason we're here is just to respect the process.
Yes.
We are very grateful that you encouraged submitters to engage with the council planners, and we did. That was very positive, and we're grateful for now the recommendation coming forward. So this is the rezoning of Nelson Road Holdings. And I think all I really need to say, and I'll hand over to Mr. Porter, is for the reasons outlined both in our evidence and in the officer's report, given the situation. And you recall we were last here talking about the soils overlay, which we thought was inappropriate on the site. And that, I think now fair to say, is being reinforced by the point today about the rezoning. And I'll say no more than we endorse the officer's recommendation.
Just before you head over to what I can let you know is, since we last presented in front of us, the panel have undertaken a number of site visits, including several properties around Martinborough, including Nelson. That was very size.
Mhm.
So thank you for acknowledging the benefit of the instructions we gave on for submitters to liaise with the council. Been a theme this hearings that we've done that. We've done that almost exclusively as a, well, I guess that's an alternative to long hearing time. And we've found that it's paid dividends in the main. So it's good to have that feedback that you thought it is useful.
Absolutely, without hesitation.
Acknowledge you also put that in writing, so we will certainly appreciate it.
Thank you. I've got nothing really further to add to the evidence other than to say that what we're seeking here really is only change would just be a recognition of the existing use of over 50, 60 years. We're not trying to reinvent anything. We're just trying to get recognition of what's there now. And possibly the only other thing I'd touch upon, if I can cast my memory back to 9 months ago, was a gentleman that was here who created that rural zone. He gave evidence that if he'd thought about it, that site would never have been included in the first place.
Today.
I can feel it.
Be fair to Mr. Hall, he was making, he was reporting on a matter that was dealt with by predecessors, and also that reflected the zoning information that the council had at the time. With benefit of further information, the recommendation is altered. So the process, as Mr. Adrian has indicated, is laid out in that respect.
Yes, I was referring to the evidence of Dr. Milne, Derek Milne. Yeah, sorry. He was the one who created the initial rural.
He provided some information that led to the creation of that.
Yes. Yep.
I don't know if there's any questions, but we'll just check.
No, I'm fine, thanks.
Thank you.
Simple.
And you could like things about the timeframe earlier.
Thank you.
So the only question that I have is, are there any if this recommendation is to be accepted by the panel, the rezoning, what does that mean for the agreements that you reached with Mr. Horrell in relation to heating?
Sorry,
To the previous hearing in terms of the rural?
you have to remind me.
Well, putting the overlay to one side, there are some recommended changes to subdivision. Do they now become redundant if the zoning change?
Absolutely. If the zoning change goes through, then the provisions relating to that zone will apply.
Yes. I might just ask while you're in the room, please, Harold, to answer that question in terms of whether he has a different view or not.
So in terms of the overlay, there would be a consequential amendment to remove that property as
Yes.
it only applies to the general rural zone. But to clarify, the rules in the subdivision chapter would not be impacted.
No.
Which apply to the overlay generally.
Yes, and they were to do with the activity status and 40 hectare and for viticulture. There was some policy amendments to it, I believe, casting my mind back. But essentially, they would remain intact. It's just that they would no longer apply to the site. I'm sorry, just 9 months is a long time.
Indeed, that's why I asked, what was that? Yeah, absolutely agree with Mr. Horrell's comments now.
It's just about avoiding any unintended consequences. Well, I've certainly exhausted my questions. Happy for you to move to your next question if you like.
Here,
Trust.
Chair and commissioners, did I need to attend? Possibly not. Again, I endorse the recommendation of the officers. And I'm just going to comment on why at the end of my statement I said caveat, because I wasn't sure at that stage whether the submitter, until he's limited, Mr. Jeff Wallace, would be appearing, presenting evidence. I understand no evidence and no appearance. The reason I wanted to just have the ability to speak to any evidence in case he brought forward what he submitted on during the earlier growth plan prior to the draft plan, where he said one of the options that he was looking at was a 35 to 40 unit retirement village. And I thought that was inappropriate in the rural zone as it was then. I consider it inappropriate now. And here we were last here, we talked about the overlay remaining, and I'm strongly of the view that that should, because if you look at the site, it is viticulture either side, and Vintners Lane generally viticulture all within the Martin Bristol's overlay. So I don't think I need to say any more other than I endorse Health's recommendation that the submission by Antilles Limited be rejected.
The answer may well be in the name of the lane.
Be appropriate.
Thank you both. Thank you for your presentation. I think just take a slight adjournment, and we're going to go out of order now and hear from Alice in relation to parts of your summary statement that we didn't deal with yesterday.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you, and good luck over the next several months.